Both Joe Biden and Donald Trump are using the final stretch of the campaign to woo undecided voters. Today, Biden focused on Pennsylvania, while President Trump went on a campaign blitz in Michigan, Iowa, North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. A new poll puts the Democrats ahead, but as Jennifer Johnson reports, that doesn't guarantee a win.
Late in the game, but still fighting to keep his job, U.S. President Donald Trump is campaigning in 5 states Sunday, dissecting the country from Michigan to Miami.
Under my leadership, our economy is now growing at the fastest rate ever recorded, 33.1%.
Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden is targeting swing state Pennsylvania with 2 rallies in Philadelphia.
We need every single one of you to get out and vote on Tuesday. My message is simple. Pennsylvania is critical in this election.
Running mates Mike Pence and Kamala Harris are both courting crucial votes in North Carolina and Georgia. As early voting continues to shatter records, close to 92 million people have already cast their ballots. Meanwhile, a new NBC News Wall Street Journal poll shows Biden holds a double-digit lead over the president, 52 to 42% among registered voters.
We're hopeful, very hopeful.
But Americans may not know who their next president is Tuesday night. States like North Carolina and Pennsylvania can count votes several days after the election. Cities are taking precautions to prevent any violence.
We're not going to tolerate them coming for the property, the product, or the people.
The COVID-19 crisis is still looming over the election. That new poll shows 57% of Americans disapprove of the way the president has handled the pandemic.
I think December is probably going to be our toughest month, but when you look at what's happening in states right now, you're seeing accelerating spread.
Somber months ahead as a new Stanford University study shows 18 of Trump's rallies, where attendees rarely wear masks, may have led to over 30,000 cases of COVID-19 and 700 deaths. Jennifer Johnson, Global News, Washington.
Our Washington Bureau Chief Jackson Proskow joins us now. Jackson, let's talk about the lawyering up and the legal preparations already underway to contest the election results, and it isn't even voting day.
Good evening to you, Robin. This is all because President Trump is pushing the view that the election results must be known on November 3rd, even though historically that hasn't always happened, and even though states are given weeks to certify their results and finish counting, and they've already warned it's going to take extra time to do that count because there are so many mail-in ballots. But here's what's happening across the country. In places like Harris County, Texas, that's where Houston is, Republicans have gone to court to try and have 125,000 ballots that have already been cast thrown out. These were ballots cast at drive-in voting sites. In Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, officials are already preparing for inevitable court challenges, and they say they're going to segregate any late-arriving mail-in ballots. They'll put them off to the side just in case there's a later court ruling that results in them being thrown out. Trump's strategy in particular seems to rely on the courts to sway this in his favor, but it only works if this is close. But I can tell you that if Republicans are fighting things in Texas, typically a Republican stronghold, that tells you they're worried about the big picture here, Robin. That's not a good sign for them. And also, you have to keep in mind that the way the election results unfold on election night could swing wildly. You might see things sway toward Trump as the early count comes in, and then later, as mail-in ballots are processed, it could swing back toward Biden. So be wary of anyone trying to make an early victory claim on Tuesday.
Jackson, Jennifer Johnson mentioned the latest poll, but really, isn't it still an election that's too close to call?
It is. I know it's counterintuitive to talk about this being a nail-biter when you're also talking about a 10-point spread. But when you dial down to the state-by-state level, the key states that matter, things are much, much closer there. And really, we're left with a couple of issues. One is the big unknowns out there. We don't know what the impact of that early, unprecedented turnout is going to be. We don't know about all these mail-in ballots, whether they'll be counted. And at the end of the day, we don't know if there will be some sort of disruption in some areas on Election Day, like violence on the polls, which is a major concern here as well. At the same time, we also know that it can still be anybody's race. There are pathways for both men here. So while things look better on paper for Joe Biden right now, make no mistake, Donald Trump still has paths that could let him eke out a win here.
Jackson Proskow in Washington. Thanks, Jackson.